What's up guys, welcome to Monster Review, where we take a look at tech tips and how-to videos. Today I'm going to take you through the process of how I engrave things. Alright, so here's what we're engraving. This is my needle D3. I call it R2D3, and I thought maybe, it'd be kind of cool to engrave R2D2 onto it. So that's what we're going to do. That's the item we're going to engrave. The first step you want to do is obviously set up your engraver, and this is the Snapmaker 2.0, and I have the 10-watt attachment because plastic is kind of hard to engrave. I know this little baby thing here ain't going to be able to do anything. The 10 watt, you should be able to engrave with the 10 watt. First thing I want to do is just set it up, make sure calibration is correct. I'm not going to worry about the camera. The camera is set up, but I'm not using it because camera's crap. It works, it doesn't work. It's really a flip of a coin whether it works or not. I'll show you what happened last time I tried to use the camera to engrave. Look at this. That is the Sega logo, and that on using Snapmaker Luban, it showed that logo, the Sega logo, dead center of the battery cap for this remote. If you want it perfect, don't use the camera. Alright, so the first thing, I got the dirt bin here. This is the top where I want to engrave R2D2. So first thing I want to do is I want to measure the area that I want to print R2D2 on. So I want him in the middle. So I'm going to measure the y-axis and the x-axis. X-axis is actually bigger than the caliper itself, so I'm just going to put 154. And for the y-axis, 115. That should be good. So with that dimension, enter into Luban. Let's jump into Luban and let me show you what I do within the app. Okay, so the first thing I got to do is I got to look for an R2D2 picture. Let's go with this one. I can make this one work. So I'm just going to take a snapshot, and then I'm going to save that snapshot. So now I go here, I have my dimensions, I hit confirm, and this is the area that, let me delete this vector image. This is the area, my area that I'm working with. But anyway, here is my image that I caught. And then the Luban is going to do its own thing to it, but I want it to be a vector image, and at 230 should be good. Nah, 230 threshold is too much. I don't want to burn. I don't want it to be like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to expand the image, obviously, to fit. So now I go to process, create cool tool path. Then I'm going to do vector engraving on path. 50% laser should do it. All this is good because if it stays too long on one particular area, it will burn it. So I'm feeling confident about 60. And that's the thing with laser engraving. There is no guideline that you can follow. I mean, there is a guideline, but the materials that they give you are very, specific. So like if you want to engrave something that you have and you don't exactly know what it's made out of, it's a trial and error kind of thing. And if it fails, it fails. Oh well, it's just a vacuum cleaner. But if it's a success, I can file it away in my brain or document it as a future reference. Alright, and so we're just gonna go ahead and save that. Generate Q code and preview. And that looks good. I don't want to engrave it. I mean, I guess this is called an outline. I mean, I guess I can. Let me delete this. I'm going to delete this and create another tool path. Vector engraving. Let me do fill. Drop this down to 50. Generate.
That looks pretty sick. Yeah, I think this will work. All right, so let's export this to the workplace. Gotta connect. Just gonna go to the home position. All right, so now I can select my G-code file, and I'm gonna send it to device because, like I said, I'm gonna set my work origin on the Snapmaker itself. So now we jump back to the Snapmaker.
All right, so first thing I gotta do is just open the file. We do auto mode, start. So now it's just taking a measurement of how thick it is. All right, so it's not able to read it automatically, so I'm gonna have to get over here and here. What I gotta do now is I gotta bring it back some, take my card, and I'm gonna level it out. There we go, perfect. So now we set the work origin. I'm gonna run boundary to make sure it's all good. Good. Okay, so now we hit next. And here's the final product. As you can see, it was a success. There are some things we could have done to get it to look a lot better, but it's a starting point. So now we can up our game, take the information that we used to engrave this and apply it to something else, like, you know, something that we can't really afford to mess up. So let's go and engrave that. Alright, so I've been playing around with the laser for a better part of 2 days, and I do have an idea of you know, how to use it successfully, so I'm going to go ahead and share those tips with you. Number one, don't jump between modules, and what I mean by that is the Snapmaker originally comes with a 1600 milliwatt laser, but I went ahead and purchased this 10-watt laser, which is a lot more powerful than the one that was included with the 2.0. Originally I used to jump between the two modules because I love how this engraves certain woods. It doesn't take off material from the wood, but it gives it a nice burnt etch into the wood, and I really like that. But one of the issues that I was having is that with this, usually the power setting is set at 100%. Almost 90% of the time. I never have it below 90 because 100% power is what you need to actually engrave things. It doesn't matter if it's rubber, it doesn't matter if it's plastics or woods. Usually you're going to want to use 100% laser power because this thing isn't that powerful. However, when you move to the 10-watt laser, it's a very different story because it's so powerful. If you always have it on 100%, you're more than likely going to cause damage, melt the plastic, burn through the wood if it's thin enough, all kinds of problems you can have. So the power range for that, like, I've gone all the way down to like 20%. You've probably gone lower than that if you had this 10-watt laser, but yeah, the range that I've used with this 10-watt laser has been from 20% power to all the way to 100% power for engraving things like this MacBook Pro. You can hardly see, but yeah, that's 100% laser power. And yeah, so by the way, it is possible to engrave aluminum with the 10-watt laser. It's not very visible, but it's still there. What I'm going to be doing going forward now is just using the 10-watt laser, and I'm going to retire the 1600 milliwatt laser and use it as a backup in case something goes wrong with that laser. Depending on the material, of course, I can probably use this to engrave. So retire this, and I'm going to focus more on that and learning, experimenting with the 10-watt laser. But playing around with the laser power between this and the 10-watt is very different, and it was causing confusion even though I wasn't aware of it. Number two, don't depend on the camera. If you have the 1600 milliwatt laser, don't use the camera at all. It is garbage. It's a gimmick. This feature was definitely put onto this module without being fully tested, and I have never been able to get it to work properly, no matter how many times I calibrate the camera. I even reached out to Snapmaker to get their opinion on the situation, and they pretty much told me that the camera works as intended, provided by your screenshots that you sent us. Yeah, don't use the camera on this. It is garbage. There are some theories as to why the camera on this is garbage. Some of those theories suggest that this takes 9 different photos and stitches it together, and when you do that, you don't have an accurate representation of where, you know, this part of the item you're going to engrave goes. Now when we go to the 10-watt laser, it is a different story. The camera is a lot better than the 1600 milliwatt laser, but I still would be very cautious when using the camera on the 10-watt laser, and I have an example of what happens. So like, here is my Osmo. As you can see, it's pretty good. The Engrave is good, it's centered, you know, I'm happy with it. But then things start to get weird. So here's my Insta360. I put my logo right above the Insta360 X3, and look at it, it's off to the left. Not sure how that happened, but not happy with that result. But you know, I chalked it up to maybe some anomaly happened, so I tried again, my DJI action camera, and yet again, same results, but this time it's off to the right. So you know, I chalked it up again to maybe there's an anomaly. So I engraved the back of the case, and sure enough, same thing, it's off to the right. No idea what's going on. So then I throw another test at it. I go ahead and I engrave my DJI mic case, and of course this time it's off to the left. I had centered it right here, and look at it. At this point I was like, what the hell is going on with the camera? So then I decided to do one more engrave, and that's with this Ford key fob. It's aftermarket. It didn't have the Ford logo. So I went ahead and I used the Snapmaker to put the logo on it, and I used the camera, and as you can see, it came out good. It came out exactly how I wanted it. And this, I did not recalibrate the camera, nothing. I just put it on the bed, used the camera to snap a background picture for Luban, and put the logo where I wanted it, and sure enough, it engraved it exactly where I wanted it. So I have no idea what the heck is going on with this camera. The results are just scattered all over the place. Sometimes it's a success, sometimes it's not. It's like a 50-50 toss of the coin. So my advice is, don't use a camera, because you know, a lot of times you'll be engraving things that are expensive or they mean something to you, and you don't want to ruin it by, you know, the engrave being off-centered like this. So you're probably asking, well, if I don't use a camera, what should I use? My answer is set the work origin manually. That is the best way to ensure 100% accuracy. Well, I can't say 100% because it's going to be as accurate as you want it to, because when you set the work origin manually, you're eyeballing the position of the laser, the outline of your work area that the laser shows you. So, you know, it's going to be as accurate as you perceive it to be. But that is definitely the way to go. And I do have an example of here of what kind of results you can expect. Here is a portable hard drive. I have 2 of these. I needed a way to distinguish the difference between this one and the other one. So what I did was I engraved Mario onto this hard drive. And as you can see, he is perfectly centered. He wasn't engraved over the text at the top, and you can see his foot is right at the bottom nicely. It's not hanging off. This is the results you get by setting your work origin manually, perfectly centered. Without a doubt, this would have been messed up had I used a camera, but because I set the work origin manually, it came out exactly as I wanted it to. Number 3. Measure the work surface of the item you are going to engrave and put it into your engraving software. So for example, this hard drive, what I did was I measured the X and Y axis, right? And I inputted that into Luban. And it gives me a work area that is the dimensions of this hard drive, so it keeps my work accurate. Number 4, document your settings. Snapmaker does not want you to engrave on plastic, and for good reason too. When you're engraving on plastic, you're releasing toxic fumes into your environment, into the air that you breathe, so they don't recommend it, and they don't give you documentations on how to do it. So for me, I had to experiment to find the correct settings to engrave this plastic hard drive. Now, I'm able to engrave on plastic because my studio is attached to the house, but it's separate from the house, and it has proper ventilation, so I can properly air out the studio when engraving plastic in here, and no one has to be inside the studio and breathe that toxic fumes. But going back to what I was saying, when I found the ideal settings to engrave plastic, I copied the settings from Luban and put it into a Google Docs, and also took a photo of the item I engraved and also put it into the documentation, so in case, let's say, this got damaged and I threw it away, in the Google Doc I have a photo of what the results look like using the settings. Number 5, invest in a non-skid mat. I got this off of eBay for $8. It's intended for your phone, so you put this on the dash of your car, put your phone on it, and your phone won't be sliding around when you drive. I had an extra one, so I decided to use it with this Snapmaker, and it turned out to work perfectly. When I put this pad onto the Snapmaker, the pad does not slide around. Furthermore, when I put the item I want to engrave onto the mat, game over. It's not going anywhere, and that is ideal because remember, the bed does move rapidly, moves quickly. That can disrupt your engraving if this slightly moves out of its work origin. Before the non-skid mat, what I would do is I would tape this to the bed of the Snapmaker, but this is by far easier, less messy. I don't have to deal with tape, just plop it on. That's it. And what's also great about this mat is that the laser has hit it a couple of times, but it doesn't do anything to this mat because it's silicone. So with all those tips out of the way, we do have one last item to engrave. This is the second hard drive. Let's go ahead and engrave Sonic onto this hard drive. Now, before I put the hard drive on here to engrave, let's go to the computer where I can measure out everything. Okay, so when I open Luban, I'm gonna go to laser engraving, 3-axis. And now it's going to do job setup, so it's asking for my work size. So as I showed you before, it's super simple. So we're going to measure the x-axis first. So we're going to measure across, turn on the caliper, measure across like that, and it's going to be 83.1. So we're going to type in 83.1 for x. Now we're going to measure the y-axis. So that's up and down, vertical. We're going to measure it like this, just make sure it zeroes out. Okay, measure it up and down, and it is 110.3. 110.3. We want our work origin to start in the center. Hit confirm, and there you have it. This is our workable area.
As I showed you, the WD element, the wording is like up here in the corner, so I'm going to keep that in mind when placing the image I want to engrave. So I'm going to use Sonic here. So first things first, I got to set it to vector, and then I'm going to set this to 200. So that looks good at 200. Now I'm going to enlarge it a little bit. Okay, that might be too big. There we go. That's fine. And you know what? I'm going to drop knuckles on here as well, since we have room. Alright, so got knuckles right there. Let me set this to 200. Ah, that looks great. Make him big a little bit, like there. Okay, and I do want to get them about the same size, because I don't want it to look weird. That looks cool. Looks like they're about to fight. Tails can be a little bit bigger. There we go. I think that's proportionate. And then again, the text is going to be right here, so that's going to be unaffected by it. Just make tail knuckles a little bit bigger. So now I got to go to process, and I got to create a toolpath. So I'm going to go to create a toolpath. All right. So again, remember I said I document all my stuff, so I'm going to just open my Google Docs. Look at the documents that I have. Look at the settings that I have. Okay, horizontal, laser power, 3530. And make sure it matches. Okay, so laser power is too high. Set that at 30. Vector engraving. On path 3030. Alright, I'll keep it on path. Okay, that's set. Now we gotta create a toolpath for Sonic. Again, let's drop the laser power to 30. Save. Alright, looks pretty good. Generate G-code. Okay, so now I gotta connect to my printer. Here we go, connect. Luban has a bug. They have a bug going on. I recently updated Luban and it keeps doing this. It keeps freezing once it positions the tool head when you first connect to it. This is like the 5th time it's done it. Alright, so the bug is with Luban, not the printer, because I disconnected, but yet Luban is still frozen. Alright, so we're gonna have to close this off. Try again. Alright, so we're going to export it to our device. File. Alright. Done with Luban. Snapmaker, if you're seeing this video, please fix this. It's annoying. Never happened before, but you broke it. You broke a good thing. Alright, so I got my hard drive here, and I'm going to go ahead and place it on the bed. This way. Make sure that it's straight. So I can go ahead and I can take the controller, do start. There's my image. Go ready. Actually, let's go ahead and do auto mode. See what happens. Wow, look at that. So the laser actually hit the top. It's funny because this says place it in the center of the platform. That is in the center. The laser, it's not in the center. So something's funky about that. But it is hitting the surface of the hard drive, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit next. It's gonna take the measurement. 22.60. So that is correct. Next. Alright, so now we're gonna set the work origin. So the laser is lowering. It's lowering down. Okay. Bam. Alright. Okay, so now we want it in the center of the hard drive. So go ahead and move it. I think it should be good. Set work origin. And then we're gonna do run boundary. Okay, so it needs to come down a little bit. Set work origin. Okay, let's try again. Let's try it one more time just so I can get a visual. Okay. I'm just going to drop it down just a little bit. Set work origin. Run boundary again. Good, good. Nice. And that's pretty much all you have to do when you're trying to set the work origin. You just want it to make sure that where it's going to engrave is the surface of the hard drive. So now that everything is set, we can go ahead and hit next and let it do its thing. So it is wobbling a little bit, mainly because the feet on the hard drive, one of the feet is missing. Hopefully it won't affect the engraving too much though. Alright, let's take a look at how it came out. Alright, so it did slightly hit the text, but that is fine. For the most part, it's on everything. The entire image is on the hard drive. We got Sonic right here, and then we have Knuckles right here, and they both look great. Sonic is looking good, Knuckles is looking good. Very similar to the results of this hard drive, where we got Mario. So yeah, really happy with this.
And there you have it. That's my process on how I engrave things using the Snapmaker 2.0 with the 10-watt laser. Again, you can accomplish a lot of this if you're using the 1600 milliwatt laser also. Just be sure to play around with your settings. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Later.